Many filmmakers are naive to the fact that interviews are a PR tool.
I have never doped.
In the beginning, politicians used it to get their message across. This sounds familiar?
I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
It was criticized for being a bluff.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
In order for us to understand how you can do better interviews, we need to go deep into this one. If you have a goldfish attention span, go swim in the sea, maybe you'll succeed at some point, but probably not.
At this moment, somewhere in our state, a serious crime is being committed.
First of all, interviews have existed for a long time. But one time in history is very significant.
Laws cannot be enforced without rigorous attention to facts.
There are 5 reasons for doing an interview: personal connection, propaganda, PR, being helpful, and ego.
Same old story to begin with. Victim young, good looking, wanted to get on television. Had everything it takes for a great career.
Informational interviews became popular in the mid-1800s.
About the body, not pretty. Beat up, mutilated, pretty bad. Hard to believe anybody'd do a thing like that.
This was a time when the police was doing hard interrogations, where a lot of people, I don't know if it was a lot of people got convicted wrongfully. They even confessed to crimes they didn't commit. And this is when crime reporting was introduced, and it forever changed how we do interviews. Things started to get a bit shady.
We don't know who did it or how. That's what we're trying to find out.
You need to understand that the police is just a reflection of the society at any present time.
You are about to share the information you gathered at the scene of the crime. It's called information sharing.
Back then, the police, just like anybody else, could beat their wife and their kids and get away with it.
The story is unfortunately a rather common one.
Soon people conducted interviews without thinking about how it distorts the reader's perception.
By dawn, a car answering the description of the getaway car is spotted. The driver fits the description of the suspect.
The police had moral issues. And another thing that was common back then was prejudice. The police was struggling at this time to get rid of the false convictions. There was corrupt police officers. There was false testimonies. The handling of evidence was not so good. All these things, they set up protocols to solve, because it was a big problem in society. The execution of Charles Hudspeth is a horrific example of failure in justice. In 1886, George Watkins and his wife Rebecca moved from Kansas to Arkansas. Rebecca got intimate with her neighbor, Charles Hudspeth, and a year later, the husband disappeared. Rebecca and Hudspeth was arrested by the police, and after a lengthy interrogation, Rebecca accused Hudspeth of murdering the husband because he wanted to get married. Charles Hudspeth was sentenced to death and executed on December 30th, 1892.
I have no choice but to sentence you.
Only a few months after his death, Hudspeth's lawyer found the husband alive and well in Kansas. He apparently left because he found out about the wife's, guilty pleasures. Whether the husband was still alive, we don't know. It's disputed. But this is just one example of how evidence and testimonies can go wrong. That's why I think we should look more into what the police have learned from doing interviews for a long time, with great consequences for the people they interview. According to the High Court, proven innocent people have served more than
23,950 years in prison so far.
Filmmakers have a huge impact on situations and testimonies. And I think you most of the time lack the education to handle situations right so the facts aren't skewed in a dangerous way for someone that's in your film or outside of your film. Anything from 46,000 to 230,000
People are innocent behind bars.
How many of you think about these things when you're making your films? I know I didn't when I started making films, but comment below what you think and what your experiences are. I know when I was making films with Swedish television, I was even nominated for the finest journalistic prize in Sweden, Guldspaden 2019. That's a big thing. Like it's the thing that all journalists in Sweden want to get nominated or win that award. We didn't win it, unfortunately. But I just felt like it was all about winning prizes and they forget about the people on the other side that they're portraying.
Black that smiles back. Goldfish.
Before we continue, Jonny's guide to interviewing.
Stop making bad interviews.
Ask open-ended questions. You are their friend. How comfortable can you get them? Listen carefully to what they say. Do more interviews with people around them. You gotta be a little bit of an investigator. Be prepared for the surprises. Great storytelling is not told through words. Shooting into the shadows rather than shooting with the light, much more cinematic. Use like the tiredness to get a certain type of answer.
So do you struggle to make your film? Do you feel like it's a lost cause? I know that feeling too well, but I got your back. In 6 weeks, I'll teach you the industry secrets that took me over 20 years to learn. And trust me, I'm not talking about how to make a mean cup of coffee on set. I'm talking about the real stuff. How to refine a story and pitch it to major platforms. Go to learndocumentary.com to learn how I can help you make a great film. But don't wait around, because this is only available to a select few around the world. Now let's get back to the story. False accusations are present in 70 of wrongful convictions. We're basing how we work, how we tell stories on a very shady background. And I wonder, 69% of wrongful conviction cases happen due to eyewitness misidentification. False confessions account for 29% of wrongful convictions. Official misconduct plays a part in 31% of murder exonerations. If this makes us into really terrible filmmakers and maybe even human beings. The viewer's perception can be twisted through how you edit an interview. You include specific parts, but don't include others. This can twist their reality. Leading questions can also steer the reality so that it becomes a false impression. You might frame the interview in a way that serves your narrative. For instance, maybe it's more negative than positive. Tone of voice also affects the interview, both yours and the interviewee. Contextual misrepresentation may also twist the reality, because you leave out how the interview was conducted and you put it maybe in a totally different context. But this is just one side of it. You can also be fooled to tell a story that is false, propaganda, or emotional manipulation. It's important to approach an interview with openness, but also critical thinking to avoid being fooled. So this is how the police have set up protocols for how they do interviews today. The aim of investigative interviewing is to obtain accurate and reliable account from victims, witnesses, or suspects about matters under police investigation. To be accurate, information should be as complete as possible without any omission or distortion. The information must have been given truthfully and withstand further scrutiny. The investigator must not approach an interview with prejudice. The interviewer should be prepared to believe the account that they are being given, but use common sense and judgment rather than personal beliefs to assess accuracy of what is being said. What we can learn from the police is that we should strive towards overcoming our own unconscious biases, meaning that we should go outside of our comfort zone. In terms of what story we set out to tell, we should always try to fight that vision of the story that we have. We should try to find people that contradicts it. I think that you should let the audience decide what's right and wrong. You should get people to question things rather than give them the answer to everything. That was one thing that I was criticized for in my first film, Zero Silence, that I didn't have the Pro Mubarak voice loud enough in the film. All of this, I think, applies to filmmaking. But I also subscribe to what Werner Herzog calls the ecstatic truth.
A deeper truth, an ecstatic truth. I've been after balance, after something like justice within pictures.
I, as a documentary filmmaker, have to push the story further than they are comfortable with telling their story a lot of the time. So it's a balance, but it's really hard. And I don't have the answer to where the balance is. I don't even think Werner Herzog has the answer to where the balance is.
Very strange to explain it, and I've hardly ever seen a film that has complete balance within it.
I don't know if you know what that is, but it's the truth that is more truthful than the truth. It is the cinematic truth of life. You have a truth that is deeper than the real truth because it just hits your core so much that you see life more clear than if it would be the real truth. That's how cinematic films are made. That's what I love. Why I love making them, why I love seeing them. I want it to be an ecstatic truth. But in that I also want to respect the people that you're portraying, and it's a hard balance. But let me know what you think. Do you feel like it's a hard balance? I struggle with it all the time.
It's essential. I'm looking for what is the deepest essential that defines us as human beings.
But that's for another video, because this sort of contradicts what I've been talking about in this video. So if you want me to do a deep dive in Werner Herzog, comment below. See you guys.